think we're ready to get started. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Erin Harlan. I'm on the product marketing team here at Smartsheet. And today we're going to talk about how to become a workflow design expert. Actually, what we're going to be doing is playing with blocks. Who likes to play with blocks? Anybody? Good. Me too. I really like to play with blocks. And I really like to think of blocks as a great analogy for Smartsheet. Because, well, let me go this way. This works better. Smartsheet is made up of the same set of building blocks, right? But how you put those building blocks together determines whether you're building a car, or a boat, or a plane, or a castle. But they're still built from the same foundational blocks. So today, what we really want to focus on are those things you need to think about before you even start building with your blocks so that you can be successful. So we're going to talk about 4 tips and things that, feedback, 4 things that you want to be sure you think about before you start even building in Smartsheet. Then we want to talk about what are these blocks that I have? What different blocks do I have in my bucket? Because the next step to being successful in building a workflow is understanding what blocks you have in your bucket and what those different blocks do. Because all these different blocks have different functionality. And the way you put them together drives other functionality. So in order to be successful building your workflow, you want to also be really familiar with the blocks that you have in your bucket. And then third, we are going to actually go through some example workflows that you can all actually take home with you today and utilize. Okay? Sound good? All right. So let's get started. Oh. Yes. Question was, are we going to have access to this after the conference? Yes. All this will be posted for you guys after the conference. And let's actually hold our questions until the end. We're going to have some time at the end of the session for Q&A. So make sure if you have your piece of paper or whatever, write down your questions. Let's save those till the end so that we make sure we can get through all the content. Okay? Great. All right. So 4 things that are really critical before we start going to our blocks. It's really important before we design any kind of workflow, any kind of solution in Smartsheet, we are familiar with our process, our goals, our roles, and visibility. Okay, what do those 4 things mean? Let's take a look. So first off, our process. Our process is actually the steps that we are going through in order from beginning to end. So whatever our workflow process is, we want to first make sure we know what that process is. So we might want to write it down. We might want to put it on a whiteboard. We might actually want to use a visualization tool. I can use Card View in Smartsheet to put together my process. But it's really important that you know what your process is, because if you don't know what your process is, it's going to be really impossible to build it, okay? And you want to make sure you know what those steps are in order to complete your process. And also think critically during this part. When you're laying out that process, think critically about your process. Are there pieces of my process that I'm willing to change or even omit to make this process better? Maybe there's a part of my process that's really manual today that requires a lot of handwriting or paper pushing. Maybe I want to automate that piece of my process, or maybe I want to change that or remove that piece altogether to make my process more efficient. So first thing, before you start building any workflow solution, you need to know, what am I trying to build? Is this going to be a castle? Is this going to be a boat? Is it going to be a car? What am I building? Okay? Next thing, I need to understand my goal. So with that process, what does success look like? How do I know that I've completed my process? And my goal should be something measurable. So yes, okay, we completed this and the task is complete. Or whatever it is that I'm using to measure my success, make sure that I have a way to do that. Because that way you can dictate whether my process is actually working or not, right? And it gives you also clear direction for that process. Because if you can't clearly define the goal, maybe I need to go back to that process and change it, okay? So make sure you're also familiar with what my goal looks like. Third, roles. Who is involved in my process? We don't all work in silos. We have to work with other people. So be really familiar with who are those other stakeholders in my process. Maybe it's other partners, maybe it's other vendors, maybe it's other suppliers, maybe it's customers, maybe it's other people on my team or other people in other departments with my own organization. But who is involved at every single step of my process? And make sure you account for those people because, again, that's going to determine how you put your blocks together. And when you're thinking about those roles, you also want to think about visibility. What kind of visibility do all of these different stakeholders need in my process, okay? Maybe my customers, they don't need to see all the nitty-gritty, they just need to fill out a form, okay? Or maybe they just need to see something really high level. Maybe my executive team, they need to see something else. Maybe they want a dashboard, right? They just care about the high level metrics. Maybe other people who are involved in my process are involved in making decisions. So maybe I'm going to set up alerts or I'm going to set up approvals for those decision-making points. And maybe some other people just need to work from a report or that kind of high-level filtered view, right? So make sure before you even go to Smartsheet, you first know what is my process, what's my end goal, who's involved, and what visibility do those people need to be successful in this process. Once you have those things down, it's going to be a lot easier to then come to my bucket of blocks and figure out how to build. Okay? So, next step. Great. We figured out our process, we figured out our goals, we figured out our roles and our visibility. Now, what blocks do I have in my bucket? What are these things? They're all the same, but how I use them may be different depending upon my process, my goals, my roles, and my visibility. The foundational piece in your bucket is always going to be a sheet. A sheet is your foundation of all your work in Smartsheet. It's like home base. It's where all of your data actually lives and your data is managed. It's always in a sheet. You can pull that data for visibility in other places, but it actually lives in the sheet itself. So it's really important, and you're always probably going to have at least one sheet as part of your process. What's powerful about sheets? You have these really smart columns that do different types of work in your sheet. So it's really important that you utilize those and you set up your sheet appropriately to then do the work down the line. Again, why did I list out my process? So I know, okay, I'm going to need to assign people tasks. That means I'm going to need to build a contact list column type in my sheet. Or, hey, I'm going to need to check a box when something is done, so that's going to trigger something. Okay, I know I'm going to need a checkbox column. Sheets also allow us to do aggregation and calculation with formulas. So if I know, hey, I'm going to have to do some aggregation and calculation of some numbers, great, I want to make sure I set those up at the sheet level. Also, a lot of my automation functionality, which we'll talk about more in a second, is also built at the sheet level. So again, making sure you set up your sheet appropriately the first time is going to help establish your process. This is your foundation. You can't build a house unless you first set down the foundation, right? The nice thing about sheets is they also can be used in a lot of different ways, several different views. The default view of a sheet is a grid, but maybe I want my sheet to be a Gantt chart, or maybe I want to use it as a calendar, or I want to use my sheet as a card view. So don't feel like it has to be a grid. You actually have a lot of flexibility in what this sheet looks like, and you may want to set that foundation up differently, again, depending on your process. What else do I have in my bucket? Forms. Forms are one of my favorite pieces. Forms are really valuable for any kind of intake process where you need to collect data from other people. Forms make it super easy. A form is something you build on a sheet, and it's a collection device for any type of information that you want brought in a sheet. And the nice thing about forms is you can send them to anyone. They don't have to have a Smartsheet account. They don't even have to know what Smartsheet is to fill out a form. You have a lot of ability to customize that form, customize the fields, customize the branding and the colors. And then you have a lot of different ways that you can distribute a form. It's really easily accessible on the mobile app. Who's used the forms on a mobile app before? If you haven't, you should. It's awesome. You can send it out in an email. You can hyperlink it somewhere. You could actually embed a form into a website. Or who heard about the new web content widget this morning? You can put a form right in your dashboard. Super awesome. Hint, hint, best practice, just telling you. So forms are really valuable. If you need to collect data from people, you should first think, oh, I need to build a form. I need to pull a form out of my bucket. Okay. Next, reports. Reports are also really valuable. A report, I like to think of a report more like a high-level filter that allows me to filter on either a single sheet or across multiple sheets. I can point a report to 10 sheets, to 100 sheets. But reports allow me to do two things. Number one, it lets me answer key business questions. Hey, I've got 10 different project sheets, and I want to know the milestones across all those project sheets. I don't want to dig through all those sheets. I can build a report. It's going to pull that information for me. Or, hey, I want to know across these 10 sheets how many items are at risk that are coming due in the next week that are over budget, right? I can get very detailed and very granular with the business question I'm asking, and my report will help me pull the data that I need or the pieces of information that I need. The other powerful thing about reports are that reports are bidirectional. Because it's like a high-level filter, if I update information in a report, it will automatically push that information back down to the underlying sheets. So reports are valuable for also data management across multiple sheets. Say, for example, I have Sally's on my team. And again, I've got her assigned to different tasks on 5 different sheets. And it turns out Sally's going to roll off the team and Bill is going to take Sally's spot. I don't want to have to go into those 5 sheets and find all the things assigned to Sally and have to manually update them. I can build a report that pulls all of Sally's tasks, and in the report, I just change it all to Bill, and it's going to automatically update those sheets for me. It makes that data management across multiple sheets really effective. So when I think about, hey, I either need to answer key business questions or I need to easily manage data across multiple sheets, I'm going to want to pull out a report. That should be my first thought. Another thing about reports that's really awesome, it gives you the ability to control the view of some of that data. One of the few ways that I can do that in Smartsheet. So if I create a report, I only want to see, I get this question all the time. Oh, I only want these 3 columns to display to a certain audience. I don't want them to see my entire sheet. I can build a report, and I can either publish that report as read-only, or I can put that report into a dashboard using a report widget, and then I easily share that live view of just that information with that audience without needing them to be shared to the underlying data. So reports also give me a lot of control around what information I'm sharing with which stakeholders. What do we got next here? Ooh, this one, also one of my favorites, automation. Automation, you're going to continue to hear more and more about this as Smartsheet evolves. Automation is really critical, and this is about taking the manual out of a lot of those workflows, right? So you probably heard this morning about some of the new workflow that we have for alerts and actions. Alerts and actions are a really powerful way to automate your work and take the manual out of that work. I don't want to chase down my team and remind them when things are due. I'm going to set up a reminder on my sheet and let Smartsheet do that work for me. Or hey, I know that different stakeholders need to approve different steps at different points in my process, those decision points in my process. I'm going to set up an approval request. And again, I'm going to let Smartsheet do that for me. And what's nice about that, again, those people don't need access necessarily to the sheet for an approval request or an update request. They can fill that out, again, directly on their mobile device. They don't even have to know that there's a sheet somewhere. It makes it very easy, again, to get the right information in front of the right people at the right time. Other ways I can automate things. Formulas in my sheet help me automate things like symbols. Maybe I want a flag to turn red when something's at risk based on certain criteria. Or conditional formatting, another great automation tool. I want this whole row to turn yellow if something, is past due. I have a lot of ways that I can do that. But my Alerts and Actions tab is where I can actually set up a lot of rule-based automation to help take out the manual pieces of work. So if I know that there's something that is really manual today, I might want to think about, is there a way I can automate that? Next, dashboards. Dashboards are a communication tool. You should think of a dashboard as a communication tool. It provides that real-time visibility to key information to a specific audience. And there are a couple ways that I can use a dashboard. I can use a dashboard for my stakeholders, my management, my executives. Maybe that's where I want to have key business metrics. Maybe that's where I want to build charts of my data. So I have a real-time chart where I'm seeing trends or metrics over time. I may also want to use my dashboard as a portal where I want to centralize the key pieces of information for my team. I'm working with 20 other people. They don't know where everything is. They may be in different departments. Create a portal use case with your dashboard and put links to all the pieces that they need. You can link to other Smartsheet items there. You can put reports in there. I can attach files from places like Google Drive or from OneDrive. I can put text in there. I can put high-level metrics. I can put charts. And now with the web content widget, I can actually embed a video or a form or a Tableau dashboard or some of the other pieces of data that may be part of my process, but I can centralize it in one place. I make it very easy for people to find that data, and then also make data-driven decisions. And this is really important. Again, when you think back to your roles, who's involved, and the visibility they need, different stakeholders need different visibility. So I may have one dashboard, I may have a couple different dashboards, again, depending on my audience or portals. Maybe my executives, they just want this high-level 10,000-foot view. They don't care about the nitty-gritty details. They just want to know, what do I need to make key decisions? My team, they're going to need a portal over here with all the centralized resources about the project or the process so they can find everything in one place and they have easy access to the things they need, right? So again, thinking about your process, thinking about those roles and the visibility they need, you might need to put a dashboard in there, or two, whatever, depending, again, on my process. Last but not least, again, who's used the mobile app in here? Great. Any of you who haven't, please download it. It is your friend. You're going to love it. I love the mobile app. I use it all the time because it gives you instant access to your data no matter where you are, right? And that is really important because I'm not always sitting at my desk in front of my computer. Sometimes I'm in the meeting. Sometimes I'm on the go. Sometimes I'm running between different places, but I may need to be able to access my dashboards. I need to access my sheets. I need to approve something so I'm not holding up the process for other people. And I can do all of those things very easily from the mobile app. Quick customer story. I had this customer tell me once he loves the mobile app. He's a big fan because he heads up sales for a region of his company. And he says, I always run into the vice president in the hallway. And of course, the vice president always wants to say, hey, how's this such and such account doing? And I'm always like, oh, I don't know. He says, now with the mobile app, whenever the vice president runs into me in the hallway and gives me that, hey, how's this such and such account doing? I can pull up my dashboard right there on my mobile and I can answer that question. And it makes me look like a hero, right? Mobile, super valuable. Also, if I have field workers, not all of us sit in front of desks all day. We may have people as part of our process who are regional salespeople or who work in the field, or construction is a great example. They're not necessarily sitting in front of a computer, but we still need them to be part of a process. We need them to fill out a form. We need them to send us a photo. We need them to do some different things. Mobile is the best way to get those stakeholders involved. So again, think about your process, and maybe I need to make sure that mobile is a part of my process as well. Last but not least, we're not going to jump into this one very heavily today, but this is also an important component to think about, is integration. One of the core foundations of Smartsheet is this idea of Smartsheet being the hub and the wheel, and it being agnostic to other applications, right? We all work in more than one thing. Maybe we're working Outlook, or we have Gmail, or we work in Salesforce, or Jira, or these other apps that maintain part of our process or part of our work. And it can be really painful to have to jump sometimes between those things. And so it's really important to think about, can I integrate these to talk to each other in my process? So again, I'm taking that manual piece out. And that's what integration allows me to do. We have a bunch of pre-built integrations that are plug and play. We also have an open API where you can build a custom integration. So again, when you're thinking about your process at large, if you know, hey, there are other apps that I use as part of my process, or other technology that I use as part of my process, I may want to think about, how can I integrate that with Smartsheet so that it's streamlined and seamless? Because that's going to take out the manual, that's going to take out the opportunity for error, and it's going to save me a lot of time. So don't put that as a sidebar. Actually think about that when you're laying out your process. Okay, who wants to see some examples? Okay, let's do that. I'm going to jump over here, and I'm actually going to jump into Smartsheet. And what I want to show you today are actual pre-built workflows that you can download and utilize today to get started. Who in here has used a template set? Okay, several of you. Great. If you haven't, it's a great place to get started for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's already pre-built with best practice built in. So it's a great place to not only kind of see what that footprint looks like, but then I can customize that and build on top of it as much as I want. So some of you may choose to start from scratch, but think of your template set kind of like getting that pre-box kit of blocks. You know, like, oh, this is the pre-built castle set with an instruction guide on how to build your castle. That's what a template set is. So it's a great place to start. And of course, you can customize that as much as you want. Maybe it's like, I actually really want 5 turrets on my castle. I don't want 2. Great, fine, you can do that with blocks. But at least I get a footprint for what it looks like to start setting that up. And the way that I access template sets is from the Solution Center in the app. So if you haven't done this before, or you haven't explored the Solution Center, this plus tab in Smartsheet, that takes you to the Solution Center. And this is chock full of over 100 individual sheet templates, as well as these template sets, which are kind of like your block starter kits. The way that I find a template set, I actually like to just type in the word set, and it's going to pull up all the sets that are available here today. You can see there's a bunch of them. Let's actually take a look. Before we jump into this one, I actually want to show you the workflow. So let's actually take a look at one of these. Who in here manages projects? That's a lot of people. So we actually have a template set called a project tracking and roll-up workflow. This is a great one, especially if you're not sure how to set this up, to at least give you inspiration on how to put some of these building blocks together. So what's in this template set? Well, we start with a sheet. Remember, sheet's our foundation, it's our home base. So we've got a project sheet. On that project sheet, we can do a lot of stuff. We can set up our Gantt chart. We can set up some formulas. We can set up some filters, custom shared and saved filters. We can set up those automated alerts and actions. And then from that sheet, we can build a couple reports. Now this one comes with 2 pre-built reports, but of course you can build as many reports as you want. If you want 50 reports, great, build 50 reports. It's very easy to do. But again, my report is kind of my high-level filtered view, or maybe I'm answering some business questions or I'm managing some data. So in this case, maybe 2 of the questions I want to ask of my project are what items are at risk and what are my key milestones. So I can build a couple reports to answer those questions. And then of course, I want all of this information maybe to flow into a high-level dashboard that I can share with my team, I can share with my stakeholders, and again, I have complete customization control about what this dashboard looks like or what goes into it. But I'm probably going to be pulling some stuff from my sheets and my reports to go in there. And then, of course, a best practice with any workflow is to put it in a workspace. Who puts stuff in workspaces today? Okay. The benefit of putting a workflow in a workspace is then, if you have other stakeholders that need to see the entire process, you share the entire workspace and everybody automatically has all the pieces. So maybe my core team of people, they all need to have access to the sheets and the reports and be able to view the dashboard. So I'm going to want to put them all in a workspace, and then all I have to do is share the workspace and they're automatically shared. Think of a workspace kind of like a shared drive. So they have access to all the pieces. From a workspace, I still have individual granular sharing capabilities. Maybe my executive team, I don't need them shared to the entire workspace, I just want to share them to the dashboard. I can easily do that from a workspace. I can just share the dashboard to a separate set of stakeholders, but I know that all my pieces are in one place. It also makes it very easy to find and organize. So best practice when you're thinking about building workflows is to put them in a workspace. Okay, let's actually take a look at this one in real life in Smartsheet and see what it looks like. So if I were to download the project tracking and roll-up template set, I click the download button, and the first thing it's going to give me is it's going to give me a dashboard with instructions. And this is really great because it's going to give me a step-by-step guide that's a PDF on how to actually put these building blocks together, okay? So this is really valuable. It walks me through step by step, what are the blocks that I have, what's pre-built on my blocks, what are the things that I need to do to put these blocks together. So it's my instruction manual for this set of blocks. So this is really great, really helps you, especially if you're new or you're not sure about the best approach. This is best practice already built in, so it's a great example. And again, you can customize this and change it as much as you want, but at least you have a starting point. Also, when I download or open that dashboard, then it gives me the option to download the actual set. So that's where I download the set of blocks. And when I download that set of blocks, where it's going to go is it's going to default to my Sheets folder. My Sheets folder in Smartsheet is my personal work, and that's where it's going to default to. And it's actually going to create a folder under my Sheets folder called Template Set with the name of that template set. Now, of course, my recommendation is to click and drag that template set into a workspace because that's going to make it easier for me to find and share that entire set with other people, right? Now, of course, when I open that set, you can see here, I can zoom in if people need to zoom in for a second. There's my 4 pieces. I've got a sheet, I've got 2 reports, and I've got a dashboard. And they're already pre-built, but I can again then come in and customize those. So if I jump into my sheet, for example, let me just go ahead and reset my zoom here. Notice it's already set up as a project sheet for me. I've already got some sample data that I can come in and type over. So maybe this is launch campaign, whatever it's going to be. I have some drop-down columns with status already built in. I can custom assign tasks to people in a contact list. I've already got my start date and my end date columns. I've already got my % complete. I've already got some duration and some predecessors. And I already have a Gantt chart that's pre-set up. Now, what's nice about this is I can go in, I can change all of this if I want to, but at least it gives me a starting place to take a look at. Notice a couple other things that are already preset on here, and all of this is in the instruction guide when you download it too. Notice I've also got some conditional formatting rules already set up. Maybe you'll notice my bars are different colors. That's conditional formatting. I've already got some formulas set up that are triggering my risk flags to go off. Hey, if this criteria is met, this item's at risk. I want you to flag it. So this is a great place to get some examples of how some of those things function together on my sheet. And then, of course, what else is in here? I've got my reports. So I've got my key milestones report that's going to show me, here are all the milestones from this project. And again, I can point a report to one sheet. I can point a report to 100 sheets, no matter what. So maybe I have a process where I'm actually going to have 3 projects. I can just duplicate my project sheet, make copies of it, and then point my report to all 3 and see the milestones across all of them or whatever. But it's really easy to set up those rules in my report using the report builder and just setting up the criteria. So in this example, for milestones, a milestone is defined by a 0 duration. That's how I know it's a milestone. That's where it gets that diamond shape on my Gantt chart instead of a bar. So I just tell the report, pull me everything that has a 0 duration. Boom, there's my milestones. Super easy. Same thing with my at-risk report. Maybe I want to see all the items that are at risk. Again, I'm just going to point my report to that sheet, and instead of asking about milestones, I'm going to say, hey, pull all the items where my flag is red. And we already know that I've got a formula that's going to automatically flag those things if they're past due and the status is incomplete. Now I have a live report, and of course that report will automatically update and be current as those items change in my sheet. Then last but not least, I have my high-level dashboard. And my dashboard is then going to pull in just the things that my stakeholder audience needs. And again, I can completely customize this. Dashboards are made up of widgets, which are the different types of content I want to put in there. So my executive team, they don't care about all the different steps in my project. They just want to see my high-level values, what's my overall start and end date for the project, what's my % complete, maybe some key attachments or documents associated, and maybe they just want to see what's at risk and what are the milestones. So report, again, can be pulled directly into that dashboard. Now my dashboard becomes a really simple, high-level communication tool to my stakeholders about the status of this project. And this is just a simple footprint that you can download, but again, you can customize this as much as you want. Maybe you have 10 projects, or 20 reports, or 5 dashboards, or maybe you don't want a dashboard, or you want your sheet in card view. You can do whatever you want to make it your own, but this is just a great way to get started and kind of gives you that footprint. Let's look at a couple more. Let me just see. Oh, good, we got time. I'm going to, jump back here. Let's look at another example. Who uses a process where they have to collect information from people? Yes. These are all bucketed into what's called request management. I need a bunch of people to give me information. Maybe I'm planning an event. Maybe I have an order process or a ticketing process. Any of those things where I'm asking people to give me specific information, then I need to do something with it. It's a request management process. And a request management process looks something like this. Ooh, what's this? Yeah, I'm probably going to start with a form, because a form allows me to easily control what information I'm collecting and easily automatically bring that data into Smartsheet. And then, of course, where does that data go? Where does all of our data live? It always lives in a sheet. But again, my sheet doesn't have to be a grid. It might be a Gantt chart. In this case, it's a card view. Maybe I want to organize and prioritize those items coming in by click and drag. So I can make my sheet a card view, and as new items come in, I can easily click and drag and move them around. I can also set, of course, more automated alerts and actions on there. And then I can build a report that maybe pulls some key information from here. Maybe I want to just see what's open, what requests are open. Maybe it's an IT ticket request or something. I want to know what tickets are open. Maybe I want to do some additional aggregation and calculation. I can have more than one sheet in my process, in my workflow. So especially if anybody's using cross-sheet formulas or wants to chart some data in a chart, best practice is maybe you're going to actually have a separate sheet where you're going to actually do all your aggregation and calculation. That way you get all your formulas, all your high-level metrics in an easy format to then build a chart on. So this is a great way to approach that. And then, of course, again, maybe I want a high-level dashboard. Maybe that I need to share with my team. Maybe it's a portal for teams to see where different requests are at. It can be used in a lot of different ways. But again, it gives me that centralized, high-level space for communication. Let's take a look at this one real quick. Excuse me. Oh, I almost forgot. Put it in a workspace. Don't forget. Best practice. Okay. So, back to Smartsheet. I've already got this one downloaded as well, but same thing, when you open up any of these, you're going to get the setup with the PDF guide as well as the download the blocks. For my request management block, notice, again, I've got some different things. I've got a tracker sheet, I've got a metric sheet, I've got a dashboard, and I've got a request, an open request report. So my tracker sheet, this is where all the data actually comes in from my form. And notice I have the form built on this sheet. So if I want an example of what a form should look like or how to set it up, there's already one pre-built on here that you can use or you can customize, and edit as much as you like and make changes to meet your needs. And of course, all the column types in the sheet you can change. Notice I've got some conditional formatting pre-built on here where certain things are going to change colors if maybe they're urgent. Okay, I want them to be red. And then I've also got this report that's going to show me the things that are currently open, that haven't been completed yet. So if I've got maybe 50 requests, I don't want to have to search through them. My report will give me easy visibility to just those 5 things I need to focus on today. Also, my request metric sheet. This is really important, and this is a best practice, especially if you want to create a chart in a dashboard. In order to chart data, it has to be in a format that makes sense for a chart, right? It has to be columns and rows in consecutive order. So that might mean that I need to do some aggregation, some calculation first. Maybe I need to sum up all those totals and put them in a format that's going to be easy for me to then chart that data. So I can either do that on my other sheet, or maybe that's going to be muddy. I might want to create a separate sheet and use a cross-sheet formula, like a VLOOKUP, to pull that data into the other sheet and do my aggregation and calculation somewhere else, where it's a lot cleaner and easier to manage. So notice here, I'm calculating, okay, what's my average assignment days? And I've got an average that's pulling data from that other sheet. Or I want to know who's assigned to which tasks. I've got my team members, and I can count across sheets. Or I can count based on status or request type. So cross-sheet formulas make it very easy for me to do that, and especially if I know in my process I need to have a chart somewhere, I may want to build another sheet into that. And then last but not least, of course, I've got that high-level dashboard, and boom, there's my beautiful charts, because it was really easy for me to create those charts, pointing them to that summary metric sheet without having to figure out what are the pieces of information that I need. Notice how I can actually put my live report directly into my dashboard as well. So then I can just see those high-level open tasks in one place. I may also have some other high-level metrics in here. I may have some attachments to related files. But this is a lot easier for me and my stakeholders to have quick visibility into what's happening than going through my other sheet, right? Best practice. Okay. One more. Let's do one more. This one I really like. Who in here has meetings? Yeah, right. We all do, right? So this one's really great for managing meetings, because who has lots of different people coming to meetings all the time, maybe doesn't know what we're going to talk about, what decisions were made, what are the next steps. Smartsheet can help us do that. And again, that in itself, meeting management, is a process. It's a workflow. So what are we going to start with again? What's the best way to collect that data? A form. Really valuable, right? And maybe we have a meeting agenda sheet then, where we're going to collect all those requests from our team or our colleagues about things we need to talk about in the meeting. We can do some formulas in here. We can set up some alerts, some automations. We want to set up reminders for people about the upcoming meeting, what they're going to be sharing. And then again, we can pull in or create as many reports as we want. I'm going to show 2 on here, but we can create 10 different reports. Maybe we want to see, here's the topics that we've discussed, or here's the past topics that we discussed previously, or here's what our decisions were. And then, of course, I don't necessarily want to share all these pieces with the rest of the team. I may just want them to go to a dashboard. And the dashboard simply says, here's what we're talking about this week. Here's the form if you have suggestions for the meeting. Super simple interface for the rest of my team. And again, put it in a workspace, don't forget. Okay, let's take a look at this one super quick, just so you kind of get a sense of what's in here. But I want to show you these in particular because they are tangible examples that you can take home today. And these are 3 of the 15 or 20 that are in there. They're going to be continually more in there. So don't hesitate to use these if you're just trying to get inspiration or want a better sense of how to put my blocks together, or just don't want to start from scratch. Because again, these are already have some of that best practice already built in. Notice in here, I've actually got 2 different sheets. I've got a follow-up sheet, an agenda sheet. I've got a couple different reports. So on my actual meeting sheet, I can fill out the information for maybe each meeting. I can keep multiple meetings over time in here. And again, I have a form that I just ask my team members to fill out. That can aggregate to an agenda. Whoops, that's the one I just opened. A follow-ups. Maybe there were some critical items or decisions that were made. Maybe I want to make sure that those are logged. Maybe I want to know what were the action items for follow-up from the last meeting. I can have a report that's going to pull those things that we flagged during the meeting as these are action items, and maybe I need to set a deadline around those, or I need to assign some tasks to people around those things. And then finally, of course, a very simple dashboard for the team. Because again, I may not want them shared to all the underlying pieces, but I want to give them visibility. Here's what we talked about. Here's the decisions we made. Here's what the next steps are. And here's a form to go fill out if you have more agenda items we need to talk about. And put all that in one central place that you can share with those stakeholders and with that audience in a clean and effective way as a portal. Okay. So, just a recap. The 4 things I need to make sure I'm familiar with before I start building are my process, my roles, my goal, and visibility, right? So what's my process? How do I define success? Who's involved? And what information do those people need in order to accomplish their part of the process? And then from there, I can figure out what are the building blocks that I need from my bucket. Maybe I need some dashboards, maybe I need some reports, maybe I need some sheets, maybe I need to share to different audiences from a workspace or individually. Maybe I want to build in some automation, maybe you need to attach some files to build my actual workflow or my end result. And then last but not least, you can definitely do this from scratch if you are comfortable and ready to do that. But if you're not sure, or you want a good place to get started, you can use those solutions that are in the Solution Center, and that's that Plus tab. Or if you're having trouble finding those, we just launched this new Learning Center on Friday. There's a whole section in the Learning Center, there's a whole track called Solutions that has every single workflow template set there. You can download it right from there, get all the information, as well as learn more about some of these Lego blocks. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to use this solution. It uses a dashboard. I haven't really built a dashboard before. I want to learn more about how to do that. Or hey, this one includes a chart. I don't really know much about charts. The Learning Center has a whole section on charts, a whole section on dashboards with tutorial videos and step-by-step instructions to help you as well. And that's available 24/7 for you as well as all of your colleagues for free. So don't hesitate to use that if you need additional help. Okay. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Who's got some questions? All right. Ooh, good. Let's, got some colleagues here to walk around so we can hear everybody. Yeah. Oh.
Hello?
That sounds like it's on. Okay. Yeah.
Can you auto delete a row or move it to another sheet? So say a project is done and you mark it completed. Can you like make it pop up into another sheet
Ooh.
instead of moving it?
So the question is, can I auto move a row from one sheet to another sheet? Today, you can move a row from one sheet to another sheet, but it is a manual process. It is on the roadmap to make that automated. So stay tuned. That is something that we are looking to incorporate in the future. But today, you can do that manually by maybe, and this is a great way to incorporate a filter, right? Maybe, okay, I've checked the box that these things are done. I want to move them maybe to an archive sheet. All I have to do is set a filter on my sheet that's just pulling those archived items, select those rows, right-click, and say move to another sheet. And it will just, you can just do it all in one swoop. So it's not hard to do, but it's not automated today. Great question. Okay, more questions, yeah.
We have a rudimentary meeting tracker,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm definitely going to use this, but can you see the, on the dashboard, I'm assuming you could present a calendar view too. People want to see when the calendars are.
Oh, yes. The question was, can I show a calendar view on my dashboard? As of today, you can. That new web content widget that they talked about at the keynote, that is now live today in all of your dashboards. And one of the awesome things that you can do with that widget is you can actually embed an entire sheet into your dashboard now in any view. I can embed a calendar, I can embed my card view, I can embed my Gantt chart right into my dashboard. Also, if I use another app, like we have a calendar view app, which is a premium app that sits on top of Smartsheet, you can embed that directly into your dashboard. So a lot of capabilities now with dashboards with that new web content widget. Great question. Yeah.
Someone over there, I think.
Oh, okay.
Next.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello. Question over here. Go ahead. can you have like one workflow update another workflow and then update back to that first workflow? For example, the meeting workflow, update the project management workflow, back and forth.
Ooh, question was, can I have one workflow update another workflow and back to another workflow? And the answer is yes, depending on what you're trying to do. And actually what you're doing then, and this is what's great, right? I'm taking one set of blocks and I'm connecting them to another set of blocks, right? So essentially when you do that, you're creating one giant workflow. And again, it depends on what you're looking to do, but there are lots of ways that you can integrate. So the short answer is yes. Long answer is depends on what you're trying to connect, but yes, you can. Because what essentially you're doing is you're taking mini workflows and now you're building a bigger workflow out of those. Great question. Yeah. Oh, there's one over here.
So can you use an existing spreadsheet that you may have built that has probably 1,000 rows of data, move it to a Smartsheet, and in future integrate that in to get the data straight from Salesforce, which I think you said we can.
Yeah.
But my first question is more important because my spreadsheet has data that was manually calculated and tracked over the years, goes back 5 years.
Yeah.
But I still want to be able to build reports that go back that far.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and does that exist in Excel today or?
Yes, it
Yeah.
exists in Excel.
Great. So the question was, can I take an existing spreadsheet in another application like Excel, and can I bring that into Smartsheet with all that data and then use that to build reports or build a workflow? And the answer is yes. That is one of the awesome things about Smartsheet. I can import from Excel. I can import from Microsoft Project. I can import from Google Sheets very, very easily. And if I want to automate that process, there's actually a new capability called the Data Uploader that allows you to automate the pull-in of that data from those applications as well as many others. So again, that's kind of comes back to the question of that integration piece. And integration helps you take the manual out of that. Good question. Okay, we got one over
We're
there.
going over here.
Yep.
Hi, my question is, you talked earlier about using like the request tracker sheet and the tracker workflow, and
Yeah.
can you connect that back to sort of your original schedule to see whether things are progressing along? So once the person responds, can you connect it back to your original like Gantt chart schedule that something's done?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the great things about it. And again, there are a couple different ways you can approach that, but how you set up your workflow will let you make sure that you have visibility and updated information in the right place. Good question.
I have a question over
Got a
here.
lot. Oh yeah.
So I heard you mention that the best practice is to take your sheets or your set of templates and put it into a work group. And then, is that what you called it?
A
Sorry.
workspace.
Workspace, okay. And then you can make your reports and your charts out of that, correct?
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Okay, so what if you just want to pull certain pieces of that report up into like a master dashboard, so to speak? Can you then pull those charts into yet another, or those reports as charts into another dashboard?
Okay. That was a couple questions there. So let's break that down.
Yeah.
So the first question was, and tell me if I've got this wrong. I want to put all those things into a workplace or a workspace. Gosh. Yes. Because A, you know it's all in one place and you can easily then share all the pieces with the same audience. You also still have granular workspace sharing. So you can also granularly share from workspace, but at least the centralized core pieces, it just makes it easier to manage. And a lot of collaboration capability happens at the workspace level. So it's a best practice to do that. The second part of the question was, can I look at individual items in a dashboard? Yes, you can always look at individual items to pull into a dashboard, no matter where they live. As long as you are shared to that information and you are the owner or the admin on the dashboard, you can pull that information in. So even if you have your dashboard in this workspace and you've got a report over here in this other workspace, I can still create a report widget over here and pull that report into my dashboard over here, even if it lives in another workspace, as long as I have access to both workspaces. Great. Good question. Good question. Okay, we've got a few more. Yeah.
So I have a question about the workspace. When you download a template and you have a workspace with multiple subfolders, is it best practice to download a single template multiple times into different folders? Can you do that, or you always need a workspace for each template set?
You know, that's really up to you.
But you can download to multiple folders within a single workspace? Is that possible?
So, great question. So let's kind of break that down for a second. When I download a template or a template set, the default location for any download is going to be into my Sheets folder. And the reason is because that is only shared to me. My Sheets, think of it like my documents if you're a Microsoft user. It's your personal organization, it's your personal structure. So it's going to the default for any new template download, which is a format download, will go into my Sheets. But I'm not going to be working by myself. I'm going to be working with other people, typically, in a work process. And the best way for me to have the most collaboration control on that process is to put it in a workspace. It gives me much more control over here. So I can click and drag that entire folder into the workspace no matter how many times I download it. And I can put all of them in the same one. I can put different ones in different ones. That's really up to you, depending on who your audience is, who your stakeholders are, or how you want to manage it. But I think the key difference is, think of your My Sheets as kind of like your personal stuff, and think of your workspaces again like shared drives, where I have a lot more granular control around sharing and permissions. So best practice is, if I know there are other people, when you think about the roles in your process, there are other people involved, a workspace gives me a lot more control. Good question. All right, we still have 5 minutes, so we still have some time. Okay, we've got, oh, one over there. Okay, yeah.
Hi. Talking about the request management workflow. So currently my company uses Jira as their ticketing system. So what I want to know is, we use that for our intake process for all of our work.
Yeah.
I want to know if I can use the integration tool between Smartsheet and Jira to automatically set up the import into the forms via Jira.
Oh, good question. So the question was, can I use Jira for ticketing today? What's the best way for me to bring that information into Smartsheet? So we do have a Jira integration. And the nice thing about the Jira integration is the Jira integration, Jira and Smartsheet will talk directly to each other, so you don't even need a form. Jira will automatically populate your sheet for you with the Jira integration. So you actually set up how you want them to talk to each other, what information you want to come from Jira into Smartsheet, and vice versa. It is bidirectional, and allows you to easily just bring that data from Jira into Smartsheet for then the next step of your process. And this is, again, integration. Make it powerful, make it seamless, let it do that work for you. Great question.
Great, we're over here, Erin.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
We have not used dashboards that much at this point in time. We have external stakeholders. Do dashboards allow two-way communications?
Good question. The question is, do dashboards allow two-way communication? It depends on how you set it up. So a dashboard is primarily a communication tool for consumption purposes, right? I'm putting some key metrics, I'm putting some reports, I'm putting some charts here in my dashboard for an audience to consume. However, I do have some granular controls on maybe I want people to send me some things back. So forms, for example, I can embed a form directly on my dashboard, and if I say, hey, I want people to submit feedback, they can do it directly from the dashboard. Or now with the new web content widget, I can actually embed my sheet into a dashboard, and it is interactive. So if people have sharing permissions, they can actually move things around, like my card view, right on my dashboard. I also have the ability to hyperlink or make my widgets interactive with underlying data. And I have a lot of control in that, where I can say, okay, this dashboard shared to these 10 people, but I only want 2 of those 10 to be able to access the underlying report. I can do that at the report level and then make my widget interactive. So if they're one of those 2 people, they can easily go into the report from there and manage that data from the report. But everybody else is view only. So dashboards actually give me a lot of flexibility in how I want people to interact with them. Great question.
Do we have time for one more?
We do. We have time for one more.
Okay.
Thank you. My team doesn't currently use Gantt charts, so I wanted to set up a new event template. So I used one of your templates, and I set up the duration, but then I tried to customize it. Duration no longer works. It keeps showing me 1 day. Are you not allowed to customize certain fields? And how do you fix it when it breaks?
Good question. So it depends on how your sheet's set up. So on a Gantt chart or a project sheet, you have something called dependencies that are set in your project settings. And when dependencies are enabled, if you have dependencies set in your predecessors column or your dates, those are going to impact your duration and vice versa. So the easy way to reset all of that is go in and uncheck dependencies, turn them off, and then you have complete control of the data. But if you still want there to be a relationship between those tasks, then you may have to adjust either your dates or your predecessors. And if you want to learn more about that, go to the Learning Center. There's a whole tutorial on how to create a project sheet with Gantt chart that walks you through all that stuff. Good question. All right, we are time today. Thanks so much, everyone. Make sure if you haven't, go ahead and fill out the feedback form on the Engage app. Make sure you stop by all the booths. You had a lot of questions about integrations. The whole first floor has booths about the Salesforce connector and the Jira connector and about some of our other integrations. So if you're looking for more information on those, there's a bunch of people who are happy to help you. Thanks so much.